the Madman!
Welcome to the final reveal for the mini expansion for Festival of Legends. We're going to start off with a legendary from the dual class Demon Hunter and Rogue. It's Rhythm Dancer Orisa, 5 mana, 3/5. Rush. After your hero attacks, return this to your hand and set its cost to 1. I do like these value cards, so Rhythm Dancer Orisa threatens to be a repeatable 1 mana, deal 3. The goal would be to play it, attack something with attack value of less than 5, and then swing with your weapon, and then bring it back to your hand, and, just have that constantly, turn after turn, be a 1 mana, deal 3. So I like repeatable resources, but boy is that slow. And to get the value unlocked, you have to first play a 5 mana, deal 3 card. It seems very silly. Will value Rogue and will value Demon Hunter possibly be a thing? I'm not really seeing it. Bizarrely bad. Another card for the Demon Hunter Rogue dual class is Tough Crowd. 3 mana, 2/1 Demon, Outcast, return a minion to its owner's hand. It is tough to swallow the idea of a sap that costs 1 more mana that comes with a precondition of Outcast, which only gets you 2/1 more, and sap was a spell that could get preparationed out. So Tough Crowd, I think this is going to be a tough sell to put in your deck if you're Demon Hunter or Rogue. And we've got Remix Rhapsody. It's 5 mana, deal 3 damage to all minions, gains an extra effect in your hand that changes each turn. It could be the angsty, emotional, resounding, or wailing Rhapsody. It could deal 3 damage to all minions and then draw 3 cards. Or give your hero +5 attack this turn. Or deal 3 damage to all minions twice. Or summon a 5/5 demon. These effects all look quite good. But it is a reactive card and it constantly changes. And it is difficult to come up with a Demon Hunter value/control deck. This is a strong card, but it's just whether or not there is a Demon Hunter control value deck out there that wants this sort of area of effect card. For Druid, we have Popular Pixie. 2 mana, 2/3. Choose 1, refresh your hero power, or your next one costs 0. It's a nice simple card. You'll consider it in hero power Druid. I'm not actually certain if it'll make the cut in hero power Druid, but it's certainly comparable to Tour Guide, which is not currently in hero power Druid. 1 mana, 1/1 versus 2 mana, 2/3. This one has the additional benefit that late game, when your attack is 5 attack, or maybe even 7 attack, you can press the 2 mana hero power, get your 7 attack, play the Popular Pixie, 2 more mana, get another 7 attack, that's suddenly 14 attack and a hit. That's a lot of attack. Druid is getting paired up with Warlock, and this Doomkin dual class card is a 6 mana, 3/4 with Battlecry. Take one of your opponent's empty mana crystals. Taking one of your opponent's is basically a net gain of 2. That used to be on Overgrowth, a 4 mana spell. So for 2 more mana, you get a 3/4. However, unlike Overgrowth, this comes in significantly later. This would be solidly into the late game when a player is at 6 mana. Druids might be able to get there faster. The Warlock side, I find the Warlock side tougher to pull off. It is more impactful if you can get this out earlier, perhaps even as early on turn 4. That's pretty nice, and it's pretty tough when your opponent is forced to play from 1 mana crystal behind at that earliest stage. A Warlock, I don't really see much use for this card. This is a kind of a high rolly card in the sense that I think the only situation where it's good is you're against a slow deck, you ramped, and you get to play this fairly early. I'm using a little bit of gamesmanship knowledge here, but this effect feels bad, so you would think that it probably wouldn't be made that powerful, and it certainly looks like the mana is restricting this card from being good. Next, this card is not as bad as it looks. It looks really bad. It's Blood Treant, the Warlock Druid dual class card. 5 mana, 2/2, but don't pay attention to the 5 mana. It costs health instead of mana. So basically 0 mana, 2/2, Battlecry, deal 5 damage to yourself. The real synergy here is with the Druid Tambourine card, where this is a very cheap way to trigger an additional 5/5 Treant. So when you think of it as this 0 mana 2/2 comes with an additional 5/5 later, You could think of it as a 0 mana like 7/7. That's a lot better, isn't it? For Warlock decks, zoos have traditionally been fine with paying health instead of mana. 0 mana 2/2, take 5 damage. Sure, it's been a while since that sort of deck has been around, but maybe? Over in Priestland, we're actually getting a set of 3 Priest cards that are board-centric here, starting with the Priest card itself, Ambient Light Spawn. 4 mana 3/4, Finale and Overheal. Give another random friendly minion +2/+2. Well, that's clearly just good by default, with the caveat that you have to play this in a minion-focused mid-rangey deck. It's a 4 mana 5/6 if you manage to hit anything with it. And Overheal decks tend to be minion-centric Priest decks that are kind of tempo-y. Ambient Lightspawn would certainly fit into that. There's currently no Overheal decks out there that are anywhere near good. But will this card, as well as the other 2 Priest cards, really tip the scales here? Because we got Funnel Cake, a 1 mana Priest and Druid card. It's a spell, restore 3 mana to a minion and its neighbors. For each one overhealed, refresh a mana crystal. That's pretty sweet. It's 1 mana to heal 9, but if you've healed only 6 potentially, like here's the absolute best case, you heal each minion for 2, and they had, exactly 2 damage, which means you overhealed all of them. So in the best case scenario, 1 mana, heal 6, and refresh 3 mana crystals after, so it's like -2 mana. And the really optimal thing is when you use this on cards that overheal, such as that Ambient Light Spawn listed before. And will these cards create that archetype? We'll have to see. I don't think these cards are impactful enough quite to do that, but if that archetype comes about, Ambient Light Spawn and Funnel Cake are good cards in that archetype. Due to overhealing being more of a Priest thing, I see this more as a Priest card than a Druid card, but hey, you can play it in Druid also. But we finally have Fanboy, which is a Priest and Druid dual class minion, 2 mana 2/2. Choose one, give a friendly minion +2 attack and rush, or +2 health and lifesteal. It's a nice basic card, and it fits into a minion style centric play. You're going to want to have a 1-drop, and then you can play the Fanboy to follow up that 1-drop. To give it attack. I mean, 2 mana 2/2 +2 attack is pretty sweet. 2 mana 2/2 +2 health and lifesteal is pretty interesting. The lifesteal can work on stuff like Wild Pyromancer and can grant you a lot more than just the combat damage lifesteal. Finally, I'm going to save the Warlock card only for last because that is a really interesting one. But we'll start with the dual class cards. Reverberations, a Warlock and a Mage dual class shadow spell. For 3 mana, summon a copy of a minion. Each one dies after taking damage. Really interesting effect where you could copy a really big minion, but after just 1 damage, it dies. I haven't the faintest idea of where you would use this in Mage, but it is notable that it is 5 mana removal in Mage. You reverberation something and then you fire blast it. But such value removal isn't really popular in the meta right now. In Warlock, though, what you want to target is your amorphous slime. So you get another slime, you get another copy of the big undead you discarded here. Will that be a very successful deck? I could see it. Especially with, well, we're going to see the Warlock card coming up soon. But let's take a detour for Fiddlefire Imp. 3 mana 3/2, Mage Warlock dual class card. Battlecry, add a random Fire Mage and Fire Warlock spell to your hand. Quite card efficient. You usually don't get 2 cards on a statted, this is a 3/2, so that's usually like a 2 mana 3/2. So for 1 mana more, you're getting 2 cards. It's a lot of value, but the main problem is it's bad value. The random Fire Mage and random Fire Warlock spell are certainly not worth a card each. Very inconsistent and probably not run because of that, but if you're looking for pure bulk cards, Fiddlefire Imp is one of the most efficient ways to just generate random cards. We conclude with a very, very exciting card. Venotum, Lord of the Opera. A 30 mana, 15/15 for Warlock. They're legendary. Taunt Lifesteal. This card's cost is equal to the amount of cards in your deck. So 30 is like a really upper limit on how much it costs. Over the course of the game, you could play this for 10 mana once you get down to 10 cards left in your deck. The big combo that people are looking for with this are playing your Jailer, and then you'll have 0 cards left in your deck, and then you can play Fenotum with it. That's pretty scary, having a 10-10 and a 15-15 with Taunt and Lifesteal come out in a sudden burst of power. Another way that you can get Fenotum out is with the Thaddeus. There's Thaddeus big discard decks right now. Thaddeus is an undead. You discard it to the Slime. Perhaps you copy the Slime with Reverberations. This Warlock deck is getting a lot of fun toys here, and I could see Fenotum and I could see Reverberations in that deck. So those are all the new cards in the mini expansion. I says it as I see it. I think this will not be that impactful in the grand scheme of the meta changing. A lot of these cards are interesting. Some of them create alternate strategies. However, as usual, it is very difficult for a mini expansion to make a mark on the meta because, you know, obviously there's only so many cards in the mini expansion. Now this time around, it was cool that there are dual class cards, which means that each class gets like 5 cards instead of 3, which means that the chance of a impact is higher in this set. So will it work out? Looking forward to seeing.